Alright, we are live. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris, this is my channel Barnon11970, and I have what I hope will be a very helpful and beneficial video for people. So I tend to make long videos, but from people that do watch them in their entirety, tell me they help them a lot. So hopefully, especially if you've never seen one of my videos before, you'll take a chance and listen, especially when you have the free time to do it. I make sure there's nothing really to see, so this way you can do it while you're working, no problem. Now, one of the things that I saw today on my Facebook page, I try to stay away from that stuff and only listen to family and things like that, but what I encountered, my sister made a post about what's going on in the world with all of the division. I won't specify what particular things, because YouTube will automatically flag my videos, and I want this information to get out. So thumbing it up, sharing it, and recording it is something I highly recommend if you think it's worth it. But somebody left a response about how certain groups have no chance to succeed, and only if you are of the Caucasian perspective will you ever achieve things in life. And when I read that, sadly, there are many people in the world that believe this. And one of the things I want to try and instill to people in your life, like you see in the words on the screen, you are what you believe. Now, the first thing I'm going to mention is look at the word belief, the word believe. Right smack in the middle is the word lie. A belief is not the same as truth. You can believe something or you could know something. Beliefs are very hard to change because a belief tends to be from someone else or something else giving you that information. It's, for example, somebody giving you a history lesson. You believe what they say to be true because you trust in that person. Now, that doesn't mean, one, they're being truthful, or two, they're being accurate, or three, they got the right information. Some people lie, some people are misinformed, some people just get wrong information, or it's perceived in a wrong way. So, your belief in anything is not based on truth. It's based on speculation, perception, what people have told you, what you've heard, and just because something has been around for a long time does not make it to be true, or may not be true for you. So this is what I want people to, what I like to call, understand, if you want to have your life better. Because that person, again, saying because of the color of your skin, you automatically cannot achieve anything. Let me ask anybody who believes in that. Let's say your belief system says that if you are a different colored skin, your life is automatically going to be more difficult. Let's assume there are people that believe that. Obviously there are, otherwise there'd be no division, especially what's going on in the world now. Now let me ask you this. Let's say you have a child, and that child knows nothing about racism at all. Because as a youth, you're not programmed yet. You don't have a belief system. You just are. That's why if you take a whole bunch of different children, whether they grow up to be gay or straight, whether they grow up to be rich or poor, whether they grow up to be a different religion, a different skin color, when they're babies, they will play with each other because they don't know what they've been programmed yet. They don't believe in what somebody programs them. But let me ask you this. If you have a child that's old enough to understand what you're trying to teach them, and you tell them that because of the color of your skin, you are not going to be able to achieve everything in your life, or it's going to be more difficult. Let me ask you this. Do you think that is going to, A, motivate that child to do better in life, or B, discourage that child because they automatically assume now that because of the color of their skin or their sexual preference or whatever, that they automatically have a crutch that they cannot overcome? And there's a saying that's called drowning in good intention. Now, I'm not saying the world is perfect and everything's going to be easy, but you will achieve as much as you are willing to give and put out in the world. Because anybody that says because based on the color of your skin, you are automatically doomed to fail, or your life is going to be impossible, or it's never going to be what you want, there are many people of different skin colors that are successful. As a matter of fact, the last president of the United States was an African American. Now, if you think about some of the biggest goals to achieve in America, being president, I would suggest, would probably be one of the highest. So the problem is, this world now is being constantly bombarded with telling you that you're the victim, that you'll never achieve because of whatever you are. My help that I want to provide for people is, you don't have to believe in something, because if you make that a part of your belief system, you will gear your life towards making that belief to be true. So in other words, if you have a belief system that because of your sexual preference or your financial status or the color of your skin, you are automatically going to have a harder road to travel, well, if you believe that, do you think that's going to motivate you to achieve? Now, some people will take negativity and turn it into something positive. So I'm not saying it's always bad. It's what you do that matters. Your path will always be based on your heart and what you feel. And if you base everything on beliefs instead of knowledge, you are hitching your wagon to somebody else's horse. And this world is trying to tell you you're a victim, that you're not going to make it, that you're not good enough, that you're ordinary. I hate with a passion when somebody says ordinary when it comes to people. Like somebody else is better because of their financial status or their power, the quote-unquote power that they have. Everybody is individual. Everybody is wonderful. Everybody has as much potential as the next person, unless you believe you don't. How will you be motivated to win a race if you're a child? Again, I'm going to say children, because we learn everything starting from our childhood. If you tell a child who may be a little heavy, oh, see that race that these people are about to race? You will not be able to win because of how you are. Do you think that's going to motivate that child to even try? No, you've automatically made that belief that person's truth, which means they will not try and do anything to win that race and may not even want to participate because you've automatically told them they're going to fail. Now, you may have done it because you think you care about the person, saying, oh, I don't want them to get injured, I don't want them to get hurt, I don't want them to fail. Like failure's a bad thing. Failure is to teach you what not to do. If you do not attempt anything in life because you're afraid to fail, how are you ever going to learn what not to do so you can succeed? This world is trying to tell you that a utopia is what we need. Now, let me ask you something. Do you think a utopia is what we all should achieve for? Because do you know what comes after perfection? Destruction. Because I want you to think about this. Let's say tomorrow utopia happens. With the snap of a finger, everything that you ever wanted will happen. All you have to do is think about it. So if you want food, you think about it, it appears. You want to, and you'll live forever. You will never die. You'll never be sick. You'll never grow old. You will live throughout infinity. Now that sounds great at first, doesn't it? But what happens after the 100th year of you doing everything that you want and nothing new ever gets invented because everything is there? What happens after the 1,000th year? What happens after the 1,000,000th year? What happens after the quadrillionth millennium passes by, when there is nothing new to experience because you have everything? Eventually it becomes a curse. Now if you think about how this universe works, where your soul does live forever, do you know that there are beings in this universe that would see that as a curse? That you will live forever, you will experience everything, and there is no escape? You will just transcend to another level? Is there any reason why? Just think about, let's say there was a singular consciousness. Do you know how lonely that is? And let's say that singular consciousness became self-aware and realized that it was the only thing in existence forever. Wouldn't you start creating a world and many worlds and many things, good, bad, and indifferent, just to feel that you're no longer alone? The problem is, in this world, nobody feels empathy for anyone else anymore. All they do is point fingers and blame and create hatred. And if you think that's going to bring us to a better place, you're thinking in the wrong way. And the problem with this world is, there are plenty of people that make lots of money and get lots of power over you being convinced that what they program into you is your truth, because you believe what they tell you and you don't believe certain things that others tell you. Which means if you have a belief system, you will automatically listen to anybody that makes you feel good about your belief system, and you will reject everything that is different from it. In other words, you'll never listen. How will you ever grow if you don't learn perspective? And if you're told that you will never achieve for whatever reason, do you think that's going to motivate anyone to become better? Now, like I said, that will for some. Some people need that as a motivation. But as you see in this world, everybody's pointing fingers. Everybody wants a handout. Nobody wants to achieve. How do you think that's going to create future generations if we are teaching the world and our children that you're a victim and you'll never make it and you need somebody else to take care of you and you're never going to be good enough and you are always going to be handicapped? What a depressing world that is heading towards. Just to put yourself in a child's shoes when you're told before you even try that no sense in trying, you're going to fail, or we're afraid because you're going to get hurt. We need to protect you. What do you think would happen to a child if you just left him in his room or her room and said, you have to lay in your bed forever because we're afraid if you get up, you're going to hurt yourself? And we're going to bring you food, we're going to bring you water, we'll make sure you go to the bathroom, we'll do everything for you. Do you think that's a life? Put yourself in the child's perspective. You as the parent might be thinking, wow, I'm really loving, I'm really caring, I'm protecting my child. My child will never be hurt. But put yourself in the perspective of that child who's spending their whole life in bed being handed everything because they're told, in their mind, they will believe they're not good enough because they're not allowed to do things on their own. And Philip, why are we having this conversation? Because if you don't have conversations, you have conflict, and you have misinformation, and you have hatred, and you have division, and you have a world that we live in right now where people are so afraid to speak up, and people are so afraid to do things on their own for fear of failure. So what if you fail? You know how many times in my life I've failed? But I keep getting up again. I keep getting motivated. I will forever fall, but always forever rise. I don't blame anybody for my situation. Yes, situations in life can hinder you, like for example being on house arrest, where everybody's been on house arrest basically. That doesn't exactly make things easier, but that doesn't mean you can't make money, you cannot survive, you cannot feed your family. I lost all of my businesses. I've been out of work for 3.5 months. The flea market that I just started went out of business and sold to a major corporation. It screwed everybody, did it last minute. People knew, but they wouldn't admit it until the last second. I am a karaoke DJ where for 1 week I got to work again, and then they shut it back down. And the news around here was saying things, oh, well, we have to close the bars down because COVID-19 has been rising. But they actually said this in the news, that the riots had nothing to do with it, but people sitting in bars had to do with it. So yes, it can make you angry, it can make you frustrated, but it's what you do with it that matters. If you sit in your bed and crawl up into a ball crying every day, being depressed, are you bettering your life? If you point fingers and say, well, it's the government's fault, or it's this person's fault, or it's that person's fault, or it's this situation's fault, or this particular race, or this particular religion, or this particular government, instead of ever taking responsibility for what you can do. You know, when somebody sees cow manure, most people see it as disgusting, something to stay away from. But the smart person sees that as fertilizer and makes a ton of money and makes a nice living off of what most people would think is nothing more than waste. If you think getting all these handouts are going to make you more stable and more productive and healthier, you're going to find out the hard way. That little child that was told that they'll never be able to run for whatever reason will not be motivated. Now just imagine if you said to the child, yes, you're a little overweight, and yes, racing might be hard, but let's show you, if you start eating right, if you start exercising, if you start believing in yourself, if you start training every day, you may not win the first race, you may not win the second race, you may not win the 300th race, but if you don't give up and you keep trying and you work hard, you eventually will win. And if you don't, at least you know you did all you could and it just wasn't meant to be. Or you can feel sorry for your child or try and protect your child and try and give them that love that you think you're doing, and have that person be depressed because they don't think they'll ever be good enough. We don't see what we're doing to others because we don't put ourselves in their shoes. We only think about ourselves, and that's what's going on right now. Nobody wants to listen. Everybody wants to be angry, and everybody thinks they're right. Now, they could be right for themselves, but how dare anybody tell anyone else what they should think, what they should feel, what they should believe, what they should do, what is right and what is wrong for them. Nobody knows you better than you. And if you want to listen to others that will put you down so they can profit off of your depression and your naivety and your gullibility and your trusting, by all means, free will allows you to do it. But do you think that's going to motivate you? How many of you feel motivated to do anything? Now, of course, that's not easy to do all the time. Trust me, I've had lots of times where my world has collapsed over me, and there's many times I want to pull the hair out of my head. But I don't dwell on it for the rest of my life. I end up knowing that something will come along. Now, if you're listening to this, you're here, aren't you? There are plenty of people who have things worse, and there are plenty of people who can succeed regardless of what society says you can and cannot do. So you can have a belief system all of your life. When somebody suggests something that may make sense, but may not make sense to you, you could justify your life and say, well, I can't achieve because of this. Well, guess what? You're not going to achieve, so you're actually proving them right. And think about the world that's going on right now, how they are so placating everybody. Do you want to win a race because you earned it, or do you want to win a race because of your skin color, your sexual preference, whatever? Just imagine if there's a race and nobody ran and say, well, you over there, because you are this and this and this, you automatically win. Is that a proud moment? Is that really a win? That they didn't earn it? And people think, well, I deserve it. No, you don't deserve anything in life. You get what you give. If you give nothing, don't be surprised you get nothing. And if you allow others to tell you how to feel, they take away your power. and you don't think they're utilizing it? Don't let others take advantage of you. You can change anything. I mean, I've used this example, and I'll use it again. There was a pitcher, because I'm a diehard Yankee fan. I don't care as much about sports as I used to, not anymore, because I've found there are more important things in life. But the story is relevant. There was a pitcher whose name was Jim Abbott. Some of you may know about that person, some may not. But this person was born without one of his hands. His right hand. He was born without a right hand. And his whole life he wanted to be a pitcher. And people who probably loved him and didn't want to see him get hurt told him, you'll never be able to pitch. How are you going to pitch when you only have one hand? Now just imagine what would have happened to that person's life if he believed what everybody else said. Whether it was loving or a wake-up call or trying to keep them from being hurt, blah, blah, blah. But that guy, Jim Abbott, didn't listen. And he ended up not only never having one day in the minor leagues, he went straight to the majors. He actually pitched a no-hitter for the New York Yankees. Now, he didn't have 20 years of success, but he had a couple. He started out with the Angels and then ended up with the Yankees. So he was around for a couple of years, but a man born with no right hand pitched a no-hitter. Sound impossible? It would have been if he would have believed what other people programmed. And I promise you, 90% of the people were trying to save that person from hurting themselves or experiencing failure. Well, you know what? That person, that individual, decided to not listen. Not because they knew that the family or friends didn't care, but he was taking control of his life. And what a surprise, he achieved his goal. And probably beyond his own expectations. His goal was to be a pitcher in the major leagues. He achieved that. But he went beyond that, because how many pitchers throw no-hitters? So you can achieve whatever you want, but if you listen to people, even if they care and they're trying to keep you from being hurt, it's okay to fail. People are so afraid of failure. So what? You failed. Get up, dust yourself off, and go in another direction, or do it again, or work harder, or learn from your mistake. But you also got to feel for other people. You got to put yourself in other people's shoes. A little empathy in this world is something we need right now. All we have is finger pointing and hatred, and I got to get mine. Well, what are you doing to achieve what you want? And if you base things on your sexual preference, your disabilities, your skin color, your wealth, or lack thereof, you automatically put a crutch on yourself that doesn't need to be there. Are you telling me throughout history there is not one person that is a different skin color that didn't achieve everything in their life that they wanted, or a lot of what they wanted? You don't think a person that was once heavy could not lose weight? Or a person who said or was told they were dying and didn't get healed? Or a person that was poor didn't become wealthy? These things happen. But if you are convinced, and you convince yourself that others, especially those that care about you, tell you how to live your life, or how you're going to live your life, or how you shouldn't live your life, it's your choice. But whose responsibility is it for your life? Somebody else's or yours? If you have been at home all this time, angry, depressed, doing nothing, cursing at the governments, cursing at the people, and you did nothing to make your life better because you said, oh, I'm stuck or there's nothing I can do, well, you got what you gave. Most people are not strong enough to hear that because they don't want to take responsibility. The world is convincing you that you are a victim, and they profit off of that. Let me ask you this. You get, God forbid, you get into a severe car accident and you're rushed to the hospital, and they say, if we need the best surgeon in the world, otherwise you're dying, and you have the choice. Now, choice one happened to be that the best doctor at that moment happened to be a Caucasian doctor. Been a doctor for 35 years, specializes in the problem that you have, is available and is nearby your home and can save your life. Or a doctor that is of a different sexual preference or a different skin color or different religion to you, blah, 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 make it up whatever you want. And that person has a year's experience, doesn't really know what they're doing, doesn't have the confidence, doesn't specialize in what you have, the problem, but only was put in the position that they're in because of who they are, not what they do. Now, you about to die, and you had the choice between the two, who are you picking? The world teaches you now that if you pick the Caucasian doctor, you're a racist. And look, that person has that much more advantage. No. They had the best experience. The other person was picked just because of they were different. They didn't achieve anything. I would not want to win a race that I did not run. I want to earn things in my life. Don't you? I mean, look at the people who are athletes. How many professional sports, let's say basketball, how many superstars are 450 pounds or higher that are extremely obese? You have to work hard to get things. If you're getting handouts, it's because people... think of the welfare system. In one sense, it seems like a good thing, right? The welfare system, it's helping those in need. But here's the thing. It will never allow you to thrive in life, because if you reach a certain financial level, you no longer get those benefits. So it will keep you just above water. Now, of course, just above water is better than drowning, but sometimes it's better to get completely out of the water. So the system is geared to keeping you down to a certain level. Why? Because then they will always have your vote. They will always have you dependent on them. In other words, you're giving away your power. Now, I'm not saying the welfare system is bad or not necessary. But do you think it motivates people to become better? Or do you think there are plenty of people in this world that will use it as just enough to get by? So yes, your bills may be paid, and yes, you may get some of the sodas and the cheeses and the bad food that you can afford and feed your family, because feeding your family junk is better than not feeding them at all. But you'll never achieve, because there's no motivation to go and rise above. And people hold on to that because they're afraid, well, what if I fail? Well, guess what? What if you succeed? Everybody's so worried about, what if I fail? Well, try again. Learn from your mistake. Become better. But you know what? What if you succeed? No one ever seems to think that way. And success doesn't mean that you're a multi-billionaire. I mean, not for nothing. If billionaires and trillionaires in this world were so happy, why are they some of them spending their lives trying to make the world a miserable place? Think about that. If you were a multi-trillionaire and can have everything that you wanted, why would you care about what everybody else gets? They're so consumed about everyone else, which means they need us more than we need them. No one ever thinks of it from that perspective. Because they think, oh, they're so lucky. They have millions and billions and trillions of dollars and own corporations and run the world. Well, if I was a multi-trillionaire, I'd just go buy an island and have fun. What do I care if somebody else makes money or not? What do I care if somebody else gets more power? There's obviously something more to this. So they definitely don't have happiness. And you could see, if you ever watch a documentary, somebody does a documentary of some town full of the most poorest people in the world, and all the kids are outside playing with tin cans and smiling and laughing all day, having fun. Because the world isn't supposed to be about money. It's supposed to be about your life. And if you're not happy, what are you doing to change it? And are you basing your life what other people have programmed into you to believe? And don't be ashamed, and be true to yourself and say yes if that's the case. Because once you realize you have a problem, you can change it. Sometimes you have to have things pointed out. And let me tell you something. My channel has been pretty much blocked for 99% of my subscribers for the past 3 or 4 years. At one point years ago, before YouTube started trying to regulate everything the way they are now, I used to make anywhere from $300 to $600 a month in ad revenue. Now I'm lucky if I make $20. Now notice I still make videos. Now at one point I took 8 months off because I got frustrated, and plus I was also moving. But I make about $20 a month. I think the most at one point was 31. Average has been about 19. And I'm still making videos because I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it to help others. Because if I can help others make this world a better place, then the world becomes a better place, and I live in this world, so it will actually affect me in that sense. Most people say, oh, I don't want to do anything, let somebody else do it. Well, that's what everybody's thinking. If everybody thinks that way, do you think we're going to make a better world? And let me ask you, ladies and gentlemen, no matter what you believe, no matter what your skin color, no matter what your sexual preference, no matter what your religion, is the world headed in a better place right now? And if you can't be honest, especially with yourself, you will never grow, you will never achieve. But once you do, you can get anything you want. And if you can't, then, sometimes it's okay to give up and try something else. Or maybe you were just supposed to experience something for a moment, just so you knew what that experience was. It's like a relationship. You think you met the man or woman of your dreams, and they end up, after a couple of months, disappearing, and you end up hating each other. Well, just appreciate what you had, because it means you were actually caring enough or good enough for somebody to want you. We don't appreciate anymore. This separation, it's not going to end well. Because just look at what everybody else is programming. Now, when I open my window, I don't see any of this stuff on the news. That's why I don't watch the news. It's a waste of time. And I don't base a belief system on what anybody else thinks, even if it works for 9 billion people. If it doesn't work for me, then I don't care. I don't base things on the masses' thought. I base it on what it does or does not do for me. Because let me tell you something. I am a Caucasian male. That should mean, but according to so many in this world these days, that I am privileged beyond belief. Well, I definitely don't feel that way. I've struggled. I've lost almost everything. I've almost died about 8 times in my life. I don't feel that privileged. But that doesn't mean I can say, oh, woe is me, or I'm a victim, or I can't do anything, so I won't do anything. I've done just enough to survive, and times even beyond that. Why do you think there's a reason why a lot of these videos I don't even show my face? Because I don't want it to be, oh, he's a man, or the color of his skin, or his religion, or his sexual preference, or blah, blah, blah. I want it to be about the word, the sound. Does it resonate with you, or will it resonate with you? Because like I said, utopia is not what it's cracked out to be. Because once you reach utopia, there's no more incentive. There's no more inventions. No more books. No more movies. No more stories. No more surprises. You think when you could just think of food, it can arrive? You don't think you're going to overindulge? You think you're going to be in great shape? The world would destroy itself after a while. If you want to listen to the news, whether it sounds good, seems credible, or maybe it is credible and maybe it is real, because like I've said so many times, whether these events are staged or real is irrelevant. It's what you perceive them to be. Look out your window. Are you seeing riots right now? Are you seeing division? Are you shooting with your neighbors every 5 minutes? Is your house being burned down because somebody next to you with a different skin color thinks you're the devil? I doubt it. But yet we're allowing what we see on the television to affect us. When you look out outside your window, you probably hear birds chirping. Stop listening to the mainstream media. Stop feeding into their frenzy. Even if it's just to go to a video to thumb it down, you're giving them your energy, and that's what they want. They know how to manipulate people by using your energy against you. Since 2011, I've been telling people to get out of this system of control. You have to stop contributing to what they want. In other words, get out of bank accounts. Get rid of your credit cards. Stop putting your money into places that you do not agree with their principles. But yet, it's still happening. And YouTube has tried so hard to silence my channel. And yet, there are still people here. Now, there's only 31 people out of over 47,000 watching, and 14 likes. So the 14 that took the time to like my video, thank you. And one left because they guess they got offended. So my message isn't going to reach the masses, but it's reaching some, which means no matter how hard they try and restrict things, messages will always get through. And what you do with that message will dictate whether the message dies or it continues forward. This has been happening throughout history, or as I say, his story. Just because something sounds right does not mean it is right, or is right for you. So this was a long video. I hope if you're just tuning in, you will rewatch it and listen. Have some empathy. Start thinking about how others feel. Stop trying to protect everyone. And I'll leave you with this story, and I've said this story before because I think this is very relevant to this. Little girl is walking through the woods. She happens to see this thing wiggling on a little branch on the walkway that she's walking. She gets close to it and sees it's a cocoon. And she's very curious about it because it's moving. And she sees all of a sudden a little wing pop out of the cocoon. And the cocoon falls to the ground. And it's wiggling and wiggling. And the wing is all that she sees. It sees that whatever's inside that cocoon is trying to get out and can't. So because she's a caring little girl, she picks up the cocoon, and in her mind, she thinks she's about to do a good thing. And Grandma Kim just did a super chat, thank you. That's very nice of you. So she holds this cocoon, and she forces it open. And out comes this beautiful butterfly. And this little girl thinks she did such a great thing. She's so happy. I helped and saved the life of that butterfly. I got it out when it was struggling. So the butterfly goes to the tip of her finger, spreads its wings, falls to the ground and dies. And the little girl is so confused. Why did that butterfly die? I helped it. It was struggling. I did something good. And she ran home crying and went to her mom and dad and explained the situation. And they looked it up, and they found that the reason the butterfly needed to struggle is because it needed the strength in the wings to fly. And to get that strength, it needed to use them to force its way out of the cocoon, to build strength. And because the little girl, whose intention was nothing but good, opened up that cocoon thinking it saved the butterfly, it prevented the butterfly from getting the strength in its wings to fly, and it died. So I want you to think about that the next time you try and save somebody, especially somebody you love. There's a reason why birds push the babies out of the nest. It's because if they stay in the nest, they will never learn to fly. And if they never learn to fly and never get food for themselves, they will die. Yes, some will die when they're pushed out. That's part of life. Maybe their experience was to just be on this particular plane of existence for a moment, because that's all they wanted. Because if you live forever, you can, when you're on vacation, you can only go to the same place so many times before it gets boring. So think about it in the grand scheme of things. If you are an infinite being who lives forever, you don't want to do the same thing forever. This is supposed to be an experience. So even all the chaos that's going around, you can experience that as, wow, this is something I never want to be a part of. Just because there's riots going on doesn't mean you have to be part of them. Just because there are people saying, well, the color of your skin means that you automatically have a default and you're a victim, doesn't mean you have to be one of them. You can achieve whatever you want, unless you believe that you're a victim. Well, it's happened throughout history. Well, look at all the people being suppressed and blah, blah, blah. You make excuses instead of saying, you know what? I'll be the one that succeeds because I can and I will. No, you'll automatically say, well, I can't because no one else has done it. Instead of saying, well, no one else has done it, I guess I'll be the first. So many people are so afraid of achievement because it's hard. And yes, you can fail, and you can fail many times. But as they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. There's a reason why lifting weights is painful, and you can actually injure yourself. And it's hard, and it's tiresome, and it takes a lot to be motivated to do it. But if you worked out every day, do you think what will happen? Do you think A, you'll get stronger, or B, you'll get weaker? What happens to the person that lays in bed all day? Do you think they A, get stronger, or B, get weaker? A critical thinker says you can't force the transformation. Well, you can. It won't work. In an infinite world with infinite possibilities, you can and cannot do everything. But there's a consequence for everything you do and don't do. So yes, you can force a transformation, but it won't be the transformation you thought it to be. Anything is possible, including believing nothing is possible. And you create your own truth. So if you were that little kid that was overweight and your parents, because they loved you and wanted to keep you safe, told you you will not win that race, you won't even bother. So you made that what they said in you become truth. If you want to change that, you could say, well, I'm going to prove my parents wrong. I'm going to work out every day. I'm going to learn how to run. I'm going to eat right. And I'm going to keep going until I win that race just to prove them wrong. You may get hurt. It's going to be painful. It's going to take a lot of effort. Probably not going to be very easy, and sometimes not very rewarding. And you may win that race and get nothing other than the fact of your own self-gratification that you earned it, you did it. And I bet your parents then will say, wow, I can't believe it. Well, like Yoda once said to Luke Skywalker, that is why you failed. And it's an Empire Strikes Back reference. And if you don't know about it, I'll explain that. When Luke Skywalker was going to the planet where Yoda is on to find Yoda, it was Dagobah. He used to be a huge Star Wars fan as well. It ends up it's a swamp planet, and his X-wing gets stuck in the swamp and goes underwater. He has to swim to shore. He finally meets Yoda, who's a Jedi Master, and asks him to train him. So Yoda, being this little, tiny little creature, probably 2 feet in height, is one of the strongest Jedis at the time. And he's training Luke to unlearn what he has learned. In other words, stop the programming. Stop basing your reality on what other people tell you and project on you, because you are so powerful that you are the one that creates those things or eliminates those things, not the others that do it. And he tries to get Luke to use his mind to raise the X-Wing out of the water. And at first he says he can't do it. He's not strong enough. So Yoda, this little 2-foot being, grabs him by the shoulder and says, "Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter." In other words, we are not the vessel that holds the soul. We are the soul. And it isn't physical strength that will lift it up. It is the mental strength. So Luke says, I'll give it a shot. I'll try. And lo and behold, he failed. So he tried to lift it up, and it went up a little bit, but then it came back down. And he said, "I can't do it. It's too big." And Yoda, being the small person, says, "Judge me by my size." And Luke walks away saying, "It's impossible." And Yoda, being frustrated, closes his eyes, puts his hand out in the air, and is able to easily lift up the X-Wing and float it back onto dry land, where it lands right in front of Luke Skywalker. And Luke Skywalker is blown away that this tiny little creature was able to do what he, who is probably 5 times his size and probably a lot more physically strong, saw him lift the X-Wing out when he failed, goes over to him and says, "I can't believe it." And Yoda says, "And that is why you failed." Because if you base things on your belief system, you are so powerful that if you are convincing yourself that you can't do something, you won't. So think about a powerful person who knows how to manipulate and steal your energy, and knowing that they don't do anything to you, you do it to you. They can never do anything to you without your permission. And that's on a subconscious level. And you are so powerful that you can shut off your power by believing from somebody else that you don't have it. But as quick as you can turn it off, you can put it back on again. I hope you will. Because it doesn't matter all of the hatred that is going on right now. I'm not experiencing it. It doesn't matter all the division that's going on right now. I love everybody that's kind to me. And anybody that's not kind to me, I just avoid them. I don't allow somebody else to tell me what I can and cannot do. Now, of course, that's not always easy these days. Sometimes you have to pick your battles. Not everyone is worth winning. But the color of my skin, or the fact that I'm quote-unquote poor when it comes to the financial ability, does not mean I'm not a wealthy person. And you can be whatever you want. And since I'm getting a phone call, we're going to end this conversation. And I want to thank you all for listening. I hope you will give this a thumbs up and share it. You all have a great day.